Rum Fest is the world's longest running rum festival in the world. It takes place annually in London in October, and it celebrates a big range of different brands, ranging from big hitters like Appleton Estate, Mount Gay and Diplomatico, right the way through to lots of lesser known brands which you'll probably be meeting for the first time. It's all about celebrating rum culture and exposing you to some different rums that you may not have tried before. I went to the 2025 edition because I wanted to learn a little bit more about rum, and I thought what better place to learn about rum and learn what a good rum really is than at Rum Fest. I also thought I might pick up a few new ideas for some fancy cocktails to impress my friends, and I was hoping that, hey, I might actually find my new favourite rum. By the end of this video, hopefully you'll have a good feel for what attending Rum Fest is actually like, and I'm hoping to help guide your decision as to whether you would benefit from going to Rum Fest. Hi, I'm James Hudson, and I'm actually a sports nutritionist. The vast majority of my content on YouTube is all teaching sports nutrition to help you improve your sporting performance. So I appreciate it's a bit of a disconnect there between sports nutrition and going to Rum Fest, but I think there's got to be a bit of balance in life, and I like drinking rum, and I've committed to trying to drink less but better. So I thought if I was trying to do that, how do I find out what better actually is? Well, I need to level up my own knowledge and go to Rum Fest. So without further ado, let's get into it. Access to Rum Fest was fairly easy as it's based in central London in Earl's Court. So we jumped on the underground, and then it's about a 5-10 minute walk from Earl's Court station. So we walked to a fairly unassuming hotel, walked down, entered through the lobby thinking, is this the right place? And it was. We got greeted with a wristband and immediately got given a tote bag. I was thinking, great, getting goodies from the off. Now in the bag was only two things. There was a small bottle of water, which I thought that's not going to get me through the day if we're drinking lots of rum, and also a tasting glass, so small glass about that big, which you would then use to do your rum tasting. After that, it was a case of going in and exploring Rum Fest. On walking into Rum Fest, I was immediately hit by just a lot of different stimulus, and I felt a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. There's some background Caribbean music, there are lots of people talking and different conversations happening, there's bright lights shining down all the different brands, and then also the carpet. The carpet was super jazzy, and it just, made me feel a bit like, there's a lot going on here. Anyway, I put the blinkers on a little bit and tried to zone in and find a brand and start talking to someone. So I missed the first few and just narrowed in on a brand called V Rum. I think probably the reason I went for that one is because my wife is called Verity, who actually joined at Rum Fest to help with some of the filming bits, and I called her V for short. So I thought it's a nice link there as a good in to start talking to the guy behind the V Rum brand, and his name was Tom, and he was explaining that V Rum is a highly sustainable brand. And I was like, what does that even mean? Turns out it's based in the UK, and all the ingredients are highly local or very locally sourced, and all the energy that goes into making the rum is renewable, and even the water used to make the rum was recycled rainwater. So I quite like that angle, but I was keen to then start tasting. So they had a few different rums on offer. They had a white rum, they had an overproof rum, which is basically white rum but really strong. And then they had a dark rum and a spiced rum. Now, I quite like a spiced rum, and I soon learned as the hours went on at Rum Fest that there's a bit of a stigma around spiced rum. Because if you're a brand and you do lots of aged rums and you're really into the specifics of the distillery process, then you've spent a lot of time and energy in cultivating a specific flavour. So to then go and put loads of spices in it, you're just completely changing that flavour in a different way. So some of the more well-respected, known brands, like the more potentially more Caribbean brands, don't necessarily do a spiced rum. And when I asked, do you do a spiced rum? It'd be nice to taste one of those. It's like, no. Anyway, V Rum did a spiced rum, and oh my God, it was delicious. So Tom talked us through all the different elements of that, and yeah, you definitely tasted each one individually, but also this nice sort of weird combination of them all together. So that was really, really nice, and I made a mental note to come back and taste that one again at the end. Having continued to speak with Tom, he then sort of trying to get the lay of the land basically and work out where to go next, as I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. He mentioned to go opposite to a brand called Foursquare, which are one of the more sort of traditional rums based in Barbados. So they had a huge flight of different rums to taste, ranging from about 7, it might have been even 8 or 9 different rums, and went over, started chatting with them, and then we had to crack on. Now this is where I should probably add that I normally drink rum in a cocktail. I quite like a dark and stormy, Or if I'm having a white rum, maybe it would be in a mojito. So having lots of different neat rums was quite a lot for me, and it was definitely a learning experience, because when we started speaking with Foursquare Rum, I think he realized I was, excited to try lots of different ones, and it was then became apparent to me that I was going to be tasting all of the rums and that this would be a normal thing. So we went through, and I didn't even know how to explain some of the tastes and flavors I was getting. So I was actually asking him, how would you describe this one? And he was like, oh, this one, it feels like this one you might say it has a lot of grip. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because actually it felt like it pincered hold of my tongue. And this is sort of true, because a lot of the different rums, with the aging process, the longer it's aged, typically the more flavor it's got, the deeper the flavors, the richer the flavors. But also, normally, the more ABV it has, so the higher the percentage. So when you're going through tasting 7-8 different rums, they might have ranged from, say, 37.5% right the way up to almost 80%. And when you're tasting rums that are 40, then 50, and then 60%, you're thinking, geez, this is a lot. Then you try one that's, say, 75, and I just didn't even have words to explain it. I was almost explaining it with movements of my hand. Like, I think this probably shows how poor I am at actually tasting rum, because again, later on in the day, I had a tip that you should hold it in front of your teeth and then move it around the palate, and that sort of helps you avoid that initial first hit of just having it and hitting the back of your throat, which is, I think, probably what I got wrong through all of this tasting, because as I was going through them, there's just firing. It felt like an electric shock around my brain. And then I'd have another one and it would just do that same electric shock, but maybe out of the side of my head. So I was getting quite a lot of ethanol flavor, and probably wasn't able to appreciate all of the delicate depths of the different aging processes, as we ranged from 4-year aged up to, when we did a 14 or up in a 15-year aged rum. So if you're really into neat rum, maybe you've come through from like a whiskey background where you like all of that different aging processes and picking out all the different flavors, then I didn't even realize that rum is very similar to whiskey, in that a lot of the brands put a lot of time, effort and energy into the aging process, into the distillery process, so that they create all of these different flavors. So again, attending Rum Fest because I like a rum cocktail, and suddenly learning that rum is just, there's so much more to it. So during this quite intense tasting flight with Foursquare, I asked him why the longer the aging process, why they normally have a higher percentage of alcohol. And he said, well, if you're going to be putting, let's say, 12, 14 years into a rum to get it to taste a certain way, then you kind of don't want to then water that down and dilute it, because then you're going to be losing or diluting a lot of the flavor that you've spent so long building. Hence why a lot of the higher aged rums have a higher percentage. So that was one of the first things I learned, and I thought, okay, that makes sense. I probably should have known that before coming to Rum Fest, but I thought I can't sort of pretend like I know everything here. I just need to go in and ask loads of questions, even if they're silly questions. So after all this tasting, I needed a bit of a chill, a bit of a rum free time. So we went round, refilled our waters, and took a little seat to have a look at the brochure. So there's a guide which explains what's going to be happening at the main stage, where they might be doing little cocktail classes, or there might be different musics going on. But also in the guide, it explains about lectures. So there are 2 rooms off Rum Fest where they host lectures. And these range a little bit from things about the history of rum, things about distillery processes, or brands just talking about their story. So if you're very into learning about all of that stuff, then I'd highly recommend booking onto one of those. I was keen to learn about the 3 pillars of rum, which was Cuba, Martinique and Jamaican rum. So I wanted to go into that one. Stupidly, I forgot to book, but I managed to somehow sneak in because there's a free spot. So I snuck into the back of this lecture, sat down with my water and just started listening away. And it was really interesting, actually. I picked up a load of different insights. So the Martinique process, for example, use agricole, which instead of using molasses, which is the normal way of making rum, they use agricole, which is basically from cane, or from the production of sugarcane, is the cane juice. So a little bit different there, and they're trying to get a sort of like a patent almost. So just like how champagne can only be called champagne because it comes from a certain part of France, they're trying to have this way of manufacturing rum patented as the Martinique process. So I suddenly realised just how little I know about rum, in that I barely knew what it was even made from. So I thought, right, again, I'm just going to keep asking lots of questions to try and learn, because that's really why I'm here. Fortunately, there's much less drinking going on in this lecture, so I sobered up a little bit, and when it finished up, walked back around, reconnected with Verity, and they had been tasting a little bit of rum, not going quite as hard as I was in that Foursquare. So we reconnected and got some food. So we walked over to the corner where they were doing food, and there were things like barbecue pulled beef sandwich. There was a range of different hot wings and flavoured wings. There were sides like mac and cheese. So there was lots of sort of soul food, as well as some rotis. I went for like a pulled beef thing with a side of mac and cheese. And again, it was delicious. Really, really good Caribbean food. Was pretty expensive, but hey, they've got a very much captive audience, so supply and demand. But the food was good, and it really helped soak up some of the rum and put us in a good spot for lots more tasting. So after we'd eaten, we decided to do a semi-structured loop of all the different brands at Rum Fest. And I think there are 56 different brands of rum there, showcasing over 400 different rums. So we weren't going to be able to taste them all. And I think instead of just going through and trying to taste them all and then falling flat on my face, decided to be a little bit more structured with which ones I was going to actually drink. Verity kept reminding me that you didn't have to swallow them all, you could spit. So there were these little, they say spit bucket makes you think of a visual of like a Rocky scene, but they looked a little bit more elegant than that. These like black things that you could dribble out the rum into. You didn't have to drink them all, but I found that quite difficult. So I was drinking quite a lot of them. But anyway, we started off with doing this sort of loop, and we found Africa's first ever rum brand. This was called Equiano, and I quite liked that. They did a few different rums, including a spiced rum, which was really nice. Then around the corner, there was a brand called Windrush 1027, and we had a long chat with them, finding about the history of it and like why they've put certain things in their rum, which I found fascinating. So if you're curious about knowing the backstory behind the brand, then going to Rum Fest could be really helpful for you. We moved then around, and by this stage we were looking for rums that had mixers alongside. And actually, well, I was drawn to a stall where they had a big slushy machine. So they had a pina colada style slushy, which obviously had rum in it, and that was absolutely delicious. May have had quite a few of those to sort of quench the palate, before we then realised we shouldn't actually be quenching the palate with something alcoholic. Let's get back on the water, sort of freshen the mind up a little bit. There was a ginger beer brand as well, so that was called Jolly's, based down in Cornwall. The people there were fantastic. They had a punch that they were doing. So lots of different options to try, but the vast majority of them are rum brands. I think there's only maybe one or two sort of mixer brands there. The rest are all rum. I was trying to do little check-ins, so I went to the Diplomatico stand and found this really plush green chair to do like my hourly check-ins, and I'm basically getting a little bit more drunk throughout the night. We remembered though that at 4 o'clock it turns to carnival hour, because from 4 till 5 it's the last hour. So when they up the music at the main stage, and people then sort of go down and, having had 4 hours of drinking rum, are then a little bit more jolly and start dancing. So we got involved in that towards the end too. So that was my experience of Rum Fest. However, the question is, should you go to Rum Fest? And what I can say is it's definitely a fun day out. If you like rum, you're going to find out a lot about rum, and you're going to be able to taste a lot of different rums in the process. One of the main things to note though is that a lot of the tasting that you're going to be doing is neat rum. So if you're a little bit like me and hey, you like rum, but you would normally have that in a cocktail to sort of mellow it a little bit, then you're probably in for a little bit of a surprise with the amount of neat rum that you're going to be drinking. However, if you're very much into neat rum and you like that, and you like the nuance of the different tastes, and you like sort of the experience of finding out about all of the aging processes and what's going into the barrels and making it taste different, then you're going to have a fantastic time. There's going to be loads of learning. That's not to say that if neat rum is not your thing, you wouldn't have a good time. There's definitely a fantastic sort of atmosphere there, bit of a carnival vibe towards the end as well, and you are likely to find your own favourite rum. Now, for me, I thought that the ticket did pay for itself, because I mean, it feels quite expensive when you're spending almost 50 quid on a ticket. But if you put that into context of buying a round of beers or a few cocktails at a bar, that might be the same. But this, you're getting 4 or 5 hours of drinking some of the nicest rums around the world. So I think the ticket does pay for itself. If you're curious about learning more about the backstory of some of the rums, then I would recommend booking onto some of the lectures. There's fantastic speakers there who are super knowledgeable about all the different elements of rum that, to be honest, went a little bit over my head. But if you're into that, then again, you're going to get lots of learning there. If you wanted to know what rum I ended up buying, I actually went back to the V Rum stand from the very start, having tasted all the different ones, and bought one of their bottles of spiced rum. And I've had that recently with a lime and some ginger beer on a Friday evening, and it's the one, it's my favorite. So I would highly recommend that one. If you found this video helpful and it's helped guide your decision as to whether you're going to go to Rum Fest, then please drop it a like and let me know in the comments if you're going to be attending. The majority of my content on YouTube is about sport nutrition, so if you're interested in learning how to fuel your performance, recover better, and have energy for both training and life while balancing a little bit of rum, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.